How can you determine if lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Then, how do you write their equations? All right, a couple of things to go over. Reciprocal is basically another version, the version of a number when you multiply by, your product is 1. So when you have two numbers, you multiply them together, the product's 1. Generally, the way you think of that is you have 3, which you might 3 times, my marker. 3 times 1/3 is going to equal 1. Another way to think of it is 3 over 1 times 1/3 would equal 1. And then so opposite reciprocal is something kind of new that we're introducing and working with here. That's where your product will just be -1. So for 3, your opposite reciprocal will be -1/3, or 3 over 1, opposite reciprocal is -1/3. Perpendicular. This is a symbol we use to indicate perpendicular. You'll see it in a lot of our equation editors and things like that. It's just a perpendicular kind of line there. That means when two lines cross and are at right angles. Here are two lines written in y equals mx plus b form that are perpendicular. Y equals 2/3 x minus 2 and y equals -3/2 x minus 2. The biggest thing to tell that these two lines are perpendicular is their slope is the opposite reciprocal of another. So if you can figure out the slope of a line and the slope of another line, and those slopes are opposite reciprocals, then they are perpendicular. This is really easy to see simply because you have it in y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope, and you can see that these slopes here are opposite reciprocals, and this symbol is indicating that they are perpendicular. That's what it's telling me. All right, next, slope is going to be the m piece. It's about your steepness. Just want to quick review that. And then you have y equals mx plus b. So that's your m is your slope. Parallel lines. You can tell two lines are parallel if their slope is the same. So in these two linear equations, I wrote that this symbol, which indicates parallel, y equals 2x minus 1 is parallel to y equals 2x plus 5. These lines will never, ever cross or intersect. So basically, we're left kind of with 3 things. A line can be parallel, meaning they never, ever intersect, no matter what. They can be perpendicular, meaning that when they do intersect, that it'll be a right angle. Or, as most lines are, they will be neither, meaning they will intersect, they will cross at a certain point, but it won't be a right angle. It will not be 90 degrees, so they would be neither. Neither. Here's going to be the trickiest example for lines that are neither perpendicular or parallel. When you have a slope that is simply the reciprocal, that's going to be where you're going to get tricked. -1/4, the slope of -1/4 and -4 are just the reciprocal. They are both negative. They have to have opposite signs in order to be the negative reciprocal. There's legitimately, I'm going to give you an assignment and a quiz and a grade, and it's going to have an equation like this. So you can say, hey, is this parallel, perpendicular, or neither? And I'm going to expect you to pick neither, but I'm going to try and trick you into thinking that they're perpendicular when they're not. So if the slopes are the same, they're parallel. If the slopes are opposite reciprocals, they're perpendicular. But if the slopes are not either of those two things, then they're going to be neither. And so, let's work through an example and figure this stuff out. All right. So first, I'm going to plot these points and kind of sketch out these two lines here. This is one line, -3, 4, -3, 4, kind of about there. 3, 0, 3, 0, kind of about there. I'm kind of just sketch out this line by hand. Not perfect, but you get the idea. The next line is -2, 1, -2, or -2 up 1. I just forgot to put a mark there. There we go. 0, -2. Sketch this line. When I look at these, they appear perpendicular, but just to make sure, we want to actually calculate out the slope. Now, to figure out the slope, we got to look at our change in y or over the change in x, our rise over our run. So you can take these 2 points. You can do y sub 2, so let's go with y sub 2 is going to be 0 minus y sub 1, -4, over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So you take the same x coordinate, so we do 3 minus -3. that is going to equal a slope. 0 plus negative would be just 4 over 3. This would be plus over 6. Meaning that my next slope should be the opposite reciprocal if I am saying that these are perpendicular. So my next slope, y sub 2, would be negative 2 minus y sub 1, 1, over 0, x sub 2, minus negative 2. So this becomes negative 2 minus 1 is going to be negative 3. 0 minus negative 2 is going to be plus 2 over 2. So I look at these and I'm like, wait a second, these are not opposite reciprocals. Don't get fooled. They are. 4/6 can be reduced to 2/3. So negative 3/2 and 2/3 are perpendicular. They are opposite reciprocals. So in which case I end up with a set of lines that are perpendicular. And I was able to use those coordinates in the graph to work on drawing those. So how do you write their equations? I just kind of talked about that. Now that I have the slopes, I could obviously use point slope form. How can you determine if lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither? It's the main focus here. That's all I have for you. Goodbye.